Welcome, folks, to the conclusion, the siyum, the first part of Tanya. Sefer Shalbeinani, the book of the intermediate, of the individual who we are, BIT, Beinani in training, trying to have self-mastery over thought, speech, and action. How is it possible to have complete mastery over oneself when you have self-control and complete mastery? You don't need to control anybody else or anything of the world. You're not reactionary, but you are living based on your choice rather than a reactionary choice. You're living life in a way that is truly aligned with the divine, truly aligned with the divine will, truly aligned with your purpose. So we've been through a great journey, almost half a year, learning this first book, 53 chapters. And I'm sure, I hope, at least I hope, and I'm pretty certain that we have all grown immensely in our connection to Hashem, to God, in our fulfillment of our purpose. 613 commandments for the Jewish people, and 7 Noahide laws for those who aren't Jewish. And how beautiful it is to be a part of the journey, to be part of a journey not only in our personal journey of growth, of becoming who we need to become, fulfilling our purpose, but we are part of something greater than ourselves, God's intended purpose. His intended purpose is to make a dwelling place in this material low world that can be sometimes very challenging, sometimes very consuming in negativity, and that we can rise above it and fulfill what we were created for. And not just personally, but we're part of a collective whole. And in that collective whole, we are a piece of making a change, a world of good, which is amazing. And the Tanya is specifically introduced to us in our age, because it is teachings that will lead to the final redemption, that will lead to bring Mashiach. So we're all part of that. So not only is it something, that is helping us personally, but it's something that is a collective whole, changing the world for good. So, welcome to Tanya today, as we conclude chapter 53 in the first part of Tanya, Sefer Shalbeinani. The Alter Rebbe concludes by quoting, as we did previously, from the Zohar, that speaks about the supernal light of God is kindled on the head, right? Which means the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, is there. And it requires oil. What is the oil? So oil has a double meaning. Oil refers to Chachma, divine wisdom. As oil, when you put olive oil into a liquid, the olive oil rises to the top. Chachma, we translate it as wisdom, but it's beyond that. But divine wisdom, the Torah, is God's divine wisdom, right? It is not sufficient on its own. In other words, what we're doing here and learning together, day in, day out, it's not sufficient that we learn. Because, as the Zohar explains, the metaphor of oil refers to good deeds. So is it good deeds or is it wisdom? Good deeds meaning mitzvahs. So what it means is that those good deeds, the mitzvahs we do, come from the divine oil, divine wisdom, meaning from the Torah. So the Torah clothes itself with divine wisdom, right? Clothes itself, garbs itself into the mitzvah. And that's where the mitzvahs come from. They come from the Torah. So the good deeds, the mitzvahs that we're talking about, derive from the divine wisdom of the Torah that teaches us how to do the mitzvah and the obligation to do the mitzvah, right? But again, the Torah itself, which is oil, is not sufficient. Learning as we're doing is not sufficient. It needs to be expressed in deed, in action, in good deeds that are called mitzvahs, right? When we say mitzvah, we don't mean just good deeds, smile at your neighbor and be friendly. We don't mean just being charitable. We mean, praying, putting on your tefillin, the observance of Shabbos, kosher, holidays, and so on for the Jewish people, all right? And the 7 Noahide laws. 613 commandments are derived from the divine wisdom. And thereby, by doing the act, that becomes the fuel, right? That through the metaphor, you have oil that goes through a wick. The wick metaphorically is a metaphor for the body and the animal's soul, because all mitzvahs have to be done with a body, right? In other words, there's physical acts that you do with the mitzvah that need to be done. And through that, the top of the wick is illuminated by a fire, which means the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, that encompasses the individual. Now, what's happening when you look at the wick, the top of the wick is black. Only when it's black does the flame stay onto the wick. Which the blackness is, what's happening is the wick is being destroyed. And yet that's what's holding on the the flame. Meaning, what's being destroyed is my animal tendency, my bodily, you know, self-engagement, seeking pleasure and comfort, right? And I'm transforming that. If we're righteous, we're transforming it, darkness into light completely. They transform the entirety of their animal's soul into godliness. That's the righteous, what they do. And for us, Beinoni, so we don't transform it entirely. But in the moment, we do transform because in the moment, my body and animal soul, when I'm doing a mitzvah, are now doing God's thing, creating the light of God and not doing your own thing. So you're transforming in that moment, and your thought and your speech and your action, that your vivifying animal soul and body are engaged in a mitzvah, and you're creating the light of God that encompasses you. This is the ultimate gift that we can give, that we transform ourselves in the moment of doing the mitzvah, the physical act of the mitzvah. We are transforming ourselves. We're taking the darkness of our animal soul and transforming it and creating a light of God that encompasses us, the Ein Sof of God, the light of the Shekhinah. And this is what it means for the Lord your God is a consuming fire. Your God. What does it mean, your God? Meaning your animal nature. That's you, the you of us, right? It's not the divine soul, because that's not our first and natural tendency. No, it's the animal instinct that we have of survival, of, thinking of me. And that's transformed in the moment because I'm now doing for God. I'm acting and speaking words of Torah, so words of prayer is in speaking, right? And acting by the act of the motion of putting on tefillin, lighting Shabbos candles, and the like. And therefore, I cease in that moment to be an independent entity, and I am an entity that's consumed by the light of God, by the flame of God, by the light that I've produced through that mitzvah. This is where God is then present in the mitzvah that I'm doing today. I create that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, should be encompassing me and the world, transforming the nature of me and the nature of the world. How powerful is that? Let me draw the Shekhinah. That's Nishtam Chelik Rishon Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach V'Yisrael. The conclusion of the first part, the help of God, may be blessed and exalted. So, Mazel Tov, we just finished the first part, first book, the first part of Tanya. So, what we're saying in conclusion is, where is God? Where is He? He's in the midst of that I'm doing. The Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, encompasses me in a manner that encompassing even my animal / vital soul and body in the act that I'm doing, creating the light of God that encompasses me and brings light to this world. In that, I'm transforming. I'm being transformative. Even though I'm not being transformative, I mean, the righteous are being transformative in that they transform the entire animal soul, the entire darkness into light. We do that in the moment. We do that in the moment that we transform, which is in the moment, meaning in the act that we're doing, because it's not permanent. Because the next act I could do may not be, a mitzvah, may not be that good deed that will fuel and bring through me the presence of the Shekhinah through my act that I do. Whereas by the righteous, it's constant because they have no other reality but the divine. Any questions? Any comments? So what does that mean? What that means is Darren is asking, what age are we allowed to encourage our children to study Tanya? Good question. So I have grandchildren and children I had when they were young as 8 and 10 years old, that they were learning Tanya. They were learning it more by heart than they were to understand it. It should be something that's, so part of, so much a part of us. Yeah. Um, so, to learn it to understand, probably 12, 13 years old, something. That's usually when they start. Probably 13 to understand. Although they can imagine learning it by heart before that. Just so it becomes, part of your psyche, you know. That's really what's happening. All right. We will begin book number 2, Shayichud V'Emunah, coming up, and we will continue our journey together. Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you. Chabad Tzurich and Kadesh Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you, Tanya. Have an amazing